A great sounding overdrive injected with a little bit of legendary mid-range. What's going on, my friends? I'm Sean Pierce Johnson, and welcome back to Stompbox Saturday. On this week's episode, I am very excited to be looking at my first pedal from Origin Effects in the form of the MEQ driver. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, what the heck does MEQ stand for? Well, you basically have a nice sounding medium gain overdrive that gives you a great amount of crunch with the addition of a very nice mid boost to the tone stack. Now, to some of you watching out there, the Pultec name may not mean a whole lot, and that's totally understandable. They're not known for making guitar stuff. They're known for their legendary studio EQs. And these things are, well, they loom large not only in legend, but in size. These huge vacuum tube-based EQs were staples in some of the best recording studios in the world. And you can currently find a few of these in the collection of Mr. Steve Vai at his Harmony Hut studio. They are big, they are expensive, but what they do incredibly well and probably better than most EQs of their ilk. You see, back in the old school days, EQs weren't really used for these carving out of frequencies quite like they are today. Instead, these EQs imparted a sort of overall character to the sound, adding in some sheen and gloss to the high end, a nice weight to the low end, and the mid-range being able to excite things and add a little bit of thickness to the overall sound. They were more broad spectrum EQs rather than very specifically cued and parametric. But it's because of that simplicity and because of the character that the EQs imparted to the final recordings that the Pultec EQ, whether it's the MEQ5 or the PEQ1, find themselves on many classic recordings that we know and love. So that gives you a little idea of the pedigree of the mid-range that is injected into the MEQ driver. We have 4 knobs and 2 toggle switches on the MEQ driver. Level and drive are pretty self-explanatory. We know exactly what those are. The bottom left knob is a mids knob and the bottom right knob is a cut knob. Now the mids knob is connected to the bottom toggle switch, which is a 3-way toggle switch labeled KCS. That stands for kilocycles per second, which we would mostly think of as kilohertz these days, but the old Pultec EQs labeled it as kilocycles per second because sound waves run in cycles. You get it. Hey, and you might be learning something today. You have 3 different settings with it: 0.8, 1.3, and 1.0, basically equating to 800 hertz, 1.3 kilohertz or kilocycles, and 1000 hertz, 1K, 1 kilohertz, or 1 kilocycle per second. And then depending on whatever frequency you have selected on that toggle switch, turning up the mid control starts to boost that frequency, imparting that character of each particular frequency band. Now the cut control is a very nice high-end roll-off that is neither too extreme nor is it too subtle. You can basically use this as a way to fine-tune the high-end response of the drive sound that you create once you add on your mid-range boost, or you can use it as a way of tailoring the overdrive sound you get with the MEQ driver to a different guitar. Say you have a sound that works great with humbuckers, but once you plug in something with single coils, it might get a little shrill. The cut is going to come in real handy here. Now, one of the more interesting features that I've seen on different Origin effects in recent past is this idea of the adaptive circuit. Now, the name doesn't really give you a good idea of what exactly it does, but if I had to equate it to something that we guitar players are most familiar with, you can kind of think of it as a built-in treble bleed mod. By turning the adaptive circuit on, the pedal will respond to your guitar's volume control in a more dynamic way, helping to preserve some of the high end that you might lose as you roll down the volume control. So if you have a guitar that doesn't have a treble bleed mod on it, and you want to be able to manipulate the drive sound just with your volume knob, and you don't want to lose the high end that you worked so hard to achieve, you can go ahead and turn this on and you can get quite a lot of range out of just one setting. And now it's time to put the MEQ driver onto the stomping block and hear it do its thing. So first we're gonna check out the different mid boosts that you get from it with the 800 Hertz, the 1000 kilohertz, and the 1.3 kilohertz. The way I've set up the MEQ driver isn't really meant to get any sort of grit or overdrive out of it. It's just supposed to lend a nice little harmonic content, be it unity gain, and really get all the color and character from the mid boost. Now, I hope you were able to hear what I heard, and that's that the mid boost in any of the frequency ranges that you select, it's not this annoying peaky mid boost, and you really don't start to hear it until maybe getting to about 10, 11 o'clock on the dial. But there is, of course, one other layer of tone shaping, and that is the cut control. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go to the 1.0 kilocycles setting, and I'm gonna go ahead and boost the mids to right about there, goose the gain a little bit more, and we're just gonna sweep that cut and see what it does on the bridge pickup on the Strat to just kind of soften those harsh edges a little bit. Now, although I would describe the MEQ driver's mid-range to be its hallmark feature, one of the things that Origin has incorporated into a few of their pedals recently is this adaptive idea, this adaptive circuit, which you can essentially think of as if you have a guitar that doesn't have a treble bleed mod, this essentially gives you a treble bleed mod. You can basically turn it on or turn it off, whatever you want, on the MEQ driver. Just by flicking it over to the right, the circuit is then engaged. And as you roll back your volume control and start to clean the pedal up, you'll get more high-end content back rather than getting that darkening effect that tends to happen. So here's how we're gonna test it. And here's how I'm gonna set up the pedal. I'm gonna give this a fair amount of 1.3 kilocycles boost so that we get a little extra sheen from these humbuckers. I'm actually gonna roll back my tone control on the neck pickup to about 8. Then I'm gonna go ahead and put the cut control right about there, and I'm just gonna goose the drive, because why not? Now I have the adaptive circuit engaged, and what I'll do is I'll start playing around with my volume controls on both the bridge and the neck pickup so that we can hear how it responds to both positions. having gone through all this, that's what you need to know in order to start making music with the MEQ driver. It's a very simple pedal to wrap your head around, and really the best part about it is you come to the settings that you love by just purely listening to yourself playing guitar. And with that in mind, let's go ahead and run through a few of my favorite settings with a bunch of different guitars, with a bunch of different positions of knobs and different mid-range EQ profiles, and maybe even comparing it to my favorite 808 Tube Screamer and seeing if we can get to something pretty close to it with this. Now, I alluded to the fact that we were going to try to turn the MEQ driver into an 808 Tube Screamer. And why exactly would I do that? This is why. In the Getting Started guide, it gives you an idea of what the controls are supposed to do on the pedal so that you can get started playing and making music. And one of the things that it mentions when it selects your mid-boost frequency is that 1 kilocycles per second is reminiscent of a typical mid-forward low-gain overdrive. Well, when I think mid-forward low-gain overdrive, I think of the Tube Screamer. Now, my personal favorite Tube Screamer right now is the Green Rhino from Way Huge Electronics. Now, mine is built into the Camel Toe Mark II on the left side of the pedal. Now, what I can do is lapse it into the classic mode. This negates the extra 100 hertz and 500 hertz boost and cut frequencies that are on the pedal. And I can get that classic 808 thing. So here's my settings on the Green Rhino. And here's the settings on the MEQ driver. And let's see if these two match each other in a close way. I think they sound pretty darn close. Who does not love Michael Schenker's cocked wah guitar solo trick? I know I do, and the MEQ driver can do something very similar to that, and it's so stupid simple to do, you'd swear that a kid came up with this setting. Now let's do something decidedly less vintage by busting out the Ormsby 7-string and boosting the rocker verb for something low-tuned, jugga-jigga-wugga-y, and maybe possibly a little genty. That 1.3 kilohertz range really helps unmuddy some of these low tunings and helps things just cut through and clack a little bit better. Let's listen to it. There you have it, my friends. That is our look at Origin Effects MEQ Driver. Now I gotta say, I wasn't really sure what to expect with this pedal. I know the Pultec EQ idea, and I've used plug-in variations of those EQs on many different recordings. But as far as how that kind of sound could be applied to guitar pedals, I was both curious and a little skeptical. But what immediately I experienced upon plugging this in for the first time was an overdrive sound that I could immediately get along with. And adding in the different kilocycles settings on the mid EQ ended up being far more versatile than I anticipated. There's a lot of sounds available just in these 3 different mid-range bands. So if this is any indication of some of the magic that Origin is able to capture by taking a great sounding overdrive and injecting some legendary EQ into it, I would maybe even love to see a version of this that instead of just the mid-range EQ, added in the classic Pultec bass and treble EQs, because that's the one that I use all the time on recordings as far as in a plug-in version goes. So, hey, Origin, if you think that's a cool idea, I would definitely try it. If this video helped you out in any way, or you just enjoyed watching it and want to help support me in my endeavor to make better guitar gear demos for all players out there, please do me a favor and join my email newsletter club, where I send my video links direct to your email inbox, and YouTube's algorithm is not getting in the way of that. Go to SeanPierceJohnson.com/email, enter your name and email address, and that is all you need to do. Not to mention, you're entered into all the future giveaways that I'll be doing on the channel later this month. We just wrapped up a giveaway from Sonic Cake Pedals, and a new one will be announced very soon. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me, everyone. I certainly hope you enjoyed yourselves watching as much as I enjoyed making this video for you. And until we see each other again, I'm Sean Pierce Johnson, wishing you all watching great tone, great health, and of course, happy stomping. Cheers, friends. God bless.